today we'll talk about kind of technology in general and what we do at UBC in terms of implementing these new things that are available on the web. And when I say new, it's really not new. It's been around for many years, but we kind of still pretend they're new because it puts us in a good light as people who do good, cool, new stuff. We'll cover web applications or different frameworks, depend how you look at it, at UBC that we have implemented over the last couple of years. And then we'll talk about what does it mean for the end user, these different workflows and different user experiences, how they influence what do we want to achieve on the web, how do we share, how do we communicate, and how do we basically change our work habits because of these new interfaces that we are facing. Again, the biggest point again is really to kind of to have a dialogue and to talk to you guys about your needs and what do you do and how we can help improve what we do. So when we are all exposed to all these tools from blogging, which is very old news, to kind of Facebook, a bit newer, or Twitter or whatever. Every day there is a new effort to try to combine, to have a new take on the old kind of thing, which is really sharing, engaging, and so on. So we witness that all the time, and we're trying to kind of keep track and to understand what's going on and to translate that into something reasonable that can be used at UBC. As an office, we have a history of doing blogs and wikis since 2002 or 3. And it started as a really server under the desk, and it kind of grew into now a really robust platform. We are proud to say that we are using the best possible technologies to run MediaWiki or WordPress applications. We do have over 7,000 active users on blogs. We have over 400 websites in development on our CMS server, tens of thousands of pages on Wiki. So there's lots going on. The platforms are quite popular. And just to give you an idea, if I go to, let's say, UBC Blogs, I'm just going to refresh this page. So I can't really read because this projector is, but you see, like 15 minutes ago, there was a post. Then another, to be nice if I could read, 18 minutes ago. So every kind of couple of minutes, we have a new blog post, a tweet kind of thing, or sharing when someone became a friend with somebody else. So there is quite a lot here.
And just to sort of step in, we started that opening slide with a picture of Novak's of the desert. And the reason we kind of looked at that slide is because I think technology is often thought of as something that must be conquered. It's a desert that must be crossed, a mountain that must be climbed because it's there, and not really because it's something that's going to enhance your way of teaching or enhance communication or enhance student engagement. So we just kind of wanted to briefly touch on why use online tools. And these are just some ones Novak and I came up with in a conversation with the feedback we get from the tools we've enabled. It's a better way to organize your information. Because it's out there on the web, you can have better communication if people can read it and comment on it. It promotes active learning. You can build resources, so you can create some sort of informational piece that other people can build upon and use in different various ways.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can kind of turn to you really quickly. So any particular needs, anything that you would like to learn about today so that we can kind of focus on one or more of these things? Anything that you would like to say or share?
The concept of active learning, possibility of students being able to interact amongst themselves, for example, team-based learning, as well as instructor.
Yeah, so are you, yeah, I think you really defined it well. So it's really kind of, it's more engaging, it's faster pace, it's instant feedback. It can be, we'll show you a couple of examples, but sort of, you can have a back channel in the class for people to communicate. It's about resources being available and collaboratively built. So, Will, you wanna?
Yeah, and we'll definitely, when we show our the different tools, I'll try to find some examples of how that's being used on the tools. Yeah?
I have a question about speed of posting. We use Blogspot, our blogger blog. You can pretty much go anywhere on the web and you'll see the blogger tag. You just press it, automatically copies to your blog, and you add a few words and you're done. It literally blogging in under 60 seconds. WordPress, it seems a lot harder to find the WordPress button, and I find that something that discourages me from calling WordPress my home, although it's visually gorgeous, there's a lot of advantages, but the speed, when you're teaching, you find an article, blogger, done. WordPress, it's cut and paste and manage. So could you address that? And then the other thing is, I've been trying to figure out a way to not to bring my students into Facebook, but for the students who are already in Facebook, what can I do to like something so it gets them into, so they can subscribe to my course Facebook or something, and then it's automatically in their Facebook every day. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, definitely. So,
do you have quick questions?
I'm new to all this. I want to build a course website, and for me it is a bit of a desert to be crossed. I mean, I want this to be time efficient.
Right.
I mean, and even the choice of which software to use, like Blogger or WordPress. I mean, I'm finding this just it's a very steep learning curve in terms of figuring out what's the most efficient approach to setting all this up. Even things like how do you update your Facebook page and your blog and tweet at the same time. I mean, right? Okay, I want it streamlined.
Well, I can start with the first question. So basically, when we made a move from sort of under the desk server to kind of more proper infrastructure, we also made a call to implement CEWL. So, and then the kind of the technical specs, unfortunately, around CEWL are such that you cannot be constantly logged in. You will have to time out. So we couldn't kind of do sort of what you could have on Blogger, where you're always logged in and you can just click on your bookmarklet and it will go right in there. Even though there are plugins, we could definitely support that. The nature of CEWL implementation is such that we cannot do that. If you have a need to feed your, let's say you decide on WordPress or UBC Blog for a reason of students blogging within Canada and all the kind of legal implications that are coming with that, and also because of they can also log in with their CEWL, which makes things quite easy. There are different ways where, actually there is one way that I can think of right now. There is actually pretty easy, makes it pretty easy to take a content from anywhere and put it into your blog within UBC. So there is something called Feed WordPress. So if you're using, I'll give you an example. If you're using Blogger, so the cost would be like you would just have to do your business as usual. You would choose your favorite application, let's say Blogger. Let's say in Blogger you can just click and it goes in and you're done. You tag it and so on. So if you turn on this little functionality on your blog, whatever you put in Blogger will show up in WordPress in a matter of seconds. It's called Feed WordPress, and you can contact me or we'll talk later. We do provide clinics, so just to make sure which blog you're running. So the way it works, it will monitor your other resources. Let's say you have a delicious feed and you run your kind of resources there, and then you have YouTube video channel that will feed your videos, and then you have a Blogger where you collect quick thoughts when you don't have time to log in and so on. It can aggregate all of that and publish immediately here. And it's not going to be like kind of JavaScript that kind of comes and goes. It will be the full post. It will get the item and it will republish it within our installation.
and let me just step us back before we get too far into the details. Let's actually go on the next slide, if that's okay. So just to sort of emphasize, what Novak and I do here at the CTLT is we've implemented WordPress. So maybe I'll let Novak talk about this. We've implemented a number of different tools and spaces that are hosted at UBC and can be used at UBC. So WordPress is one of the main platforms we host. These are sort of the different tools that we are working on here. Let me go ahead and have.
So basically, we talked about it earlier. We have all these different things online, and there's so many different tools. Like we mentioned YouTube maybe for videos, Delicious for your links, Blogger for your blogs, and so on. And if the question is, should we go to WordPress at UBC? Why should we do that? I would say, no, use whatever you like. Really, there's no obvious benefit except for some legal implications, and I think you can kind of go around them often. And then also CEWL and a couple of benefits, you know, if you're running at UBC. But overall, I would definitely say use the tool that works the best for you. And at the end of the day, probably it's not going to be one tool. It's going to be a whole range of tools. And the more you get into these things, the more different tools you'll end up using. So basically, the kind of idea is really having all these spaces and being able to create these richer experiences by combining these spaces. So you can think of it almost as a Chinese menu. So I like this from here, and I like this from here, and I'm going to aggregate all together and create this portal for my course, when I'm going to subscribe to all these journals that are feeding in automatically the keywords, and I'm going to subscribe to Delicious keyword that these guys that are really cool in their field are feeding to, and I'm going to blog here and aggregate that. So really, it's about learning what is there and combining all these different spaces. I don't think there is kind of one tool, and I'm definitely not claiming that UBC is really the tool to do that. We had a question, should we put videos on our site? Because we think because UBC has it, we shouldn't put it on YouTube. And my answer would be no, definitely put it on YouTube. Increases your visibility, more people will find it, and you're promoting your work much better. And guess what? I mean, YouTube has such a kind of power servers behind it, no one will ever be able to match that. It will resize your video for your device. It will do all these great things that you can only dream of. So whenever you can use the external tool, go for it. On the other hand, I think we provide excellent tools, and there are lots of things here we'll show later that you actually don't have. So it's a kind of really a moment of innovation, and a couple of things that we have developed internally that are not even available outside. And for those couple of things, you may consider using UBC stuff. So here we just have kind of a list of things that you can think of when you think about, using online tools.
We're in a learning management system environment for a lot of courses.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to hear if there's something that comes up along our time in the seminar that is a tie-in or a connection, or where is it in relation to feeding into the learning management system? I'd love to hear those kinds of things as well.
So basically like managing content outside of LMS and bringing it into the LMS?
Yeah, a lot of these tools, they interact with each other, but you take Blackboard, for example, and if I'm doing my course in Blackboard, but I'd like it to have some of this richer content, but still have the benefits of enrollment control and privacy and things like that. So wherever those things wire in,
yeah, for sure we can talk about a couple of examples. Phil, you want to take over?
Sure. So we just wanted to give some highlights of how our publishing framework is being used. For an example, we wanted to show an instructor wants a private class website and with the ability for students to make comments or interact some way. So we would recommend the solution of blogs. So we actually have a site called UBC Blogs, and do you want to show us the...
Yeah, so my monitor is very bright, so you cannot really see much here. But we mentioned a little bit. So basically UBC Blogs, running on WordPress, always the latest version. We're trying to keep it up to date. Right now we have over 7,000 users. We have a couple of faculties like Soder, really heavy users with, I think the next year the goal is that every first-year student in Soder will have to have their blog, use it for a course needs, as an e-portfolio, marketing tool, and so on. We kind of did an extension on UBC Blogs because up to last year it was really a number of blogs that were really hard to even find. So you really didn't have this layer at the front that will put pieces together. But as of last summer or fall, we introduced UBC Blogs Mark II, which is basically kind of our name for a plugin called BuddyPress, which basically creates almost like a Facebook for institution. So if you take a look here, we have groups, blogs, forums, members, activities. So I can kind of go, let's say, yeah, your screen is a bit better, so you can maybe show. I can take a look, for example, at the popular members. So I can see that this person has 94 friends at UBC. This other person has 80-something friends. So people can connect and work together. You can create a group, either public or private. A blog, you can friend each other. So there's lots of kind of little functions that are typically found in Facebook or different social networking places that you can use to connect to your students if you're not, again, happy with Facebook, or you really, a lot of students will simply say, look, I just want my Facebook for my private stuff. I really don't want to connect in any other ways. So it kind of makes sense often to have something like that here, and this is basically that. And
here's just an example of a course using UBC Blogs to do a course website. You can see that they actually have some posts. They have comments enabled, so you can go in and see like the different comments. They have different people posting, so different students are posting to that. Let me just show another example of a course blog. And this is a more traditional website, so it's not really interactive, but they have their home with the course instructors, the dates of their lectures, which doesn't actually look like they've updated, but the lecture outline, some tutorials, the reading list, the syllabus. So it's just a static sort of website, easily done, probably set up within a few minutes, I'm guessing. So that's a tool that can be used both dynamically with sort of timely information coming out through blog posts, or it can be used statically to just do a course website very easily and very quickly.
And you can decide whether you want to be open, public, or completely locked down. You can decide whether you want only your students to post comments or you want to open it for everyone. So there's a lot of settings that you can do.
So another example was a small unit, so something like the CTLT or an office wanted to have a professional UBC branded website, so it looks like the UBC websites, but they didn't want to go out and pay a web developer to develop that website for them. So with that, we recommend the tool of what we call CMS. So we have a site called cms.ubc.ca, and CMS stands for a content management system. So there's basically been sort of three general eras of sort of website development. And the first era back in the old days, you would basically have to hand code a website. So you'd type the code and you'd know HTML, and then you would FTP it to a server. The second sort of era came out with the idea of web editor. So, and we're still kind of in that era, so you might be using a program like Dreamweaver or Front Page, and that kind of helps you sort of design the page and structure it. And the third era that's becoming more and more popular is the content management system era. So these are sort of online systems that manage your content, and that content is a little bit separate from the structure of the page. So the structure of the page is set up within the system, and then you can go in and constantly add new content or move modules around. So it's a much more modular system. We use something called WordPress, which we've talked about a little bit for our content management system here at UBC. WordPress is an open source, one of the two largest CMSs used in the world, CMS platforms used in the world, the other being Drupal, which is also available a little bit here at UBC, but Drupal? Drupal. Yeah. CMS is the one that we're hosting, WordPress is the one that we're hosting, and I'll let Novak talk a little bit.
Yeah, and Drupal, there is a group in IT that is developing Drupal as well. So to give you an idea, so let's say you want to have a small event tomorrow and you need a website. You would simply go to cms.ubc.ca, and then maybe you can load this page as well on yours because my screen is really too bright. And then again, kind of some benefits of running it within UBC rather than using Blogger or something else is that in order to see the website request form, so if you try to show the website request form, you'll probably hit the CEWL button. So you have to have your CEWL to see the form. But because I'm already logged in, I will ask here, what is your first name, last name, what is your association with UBC, what is your job title, what do you need the website for, what kind of website do you need? So a little questionnaire. And by tomorrow morning, you'll get a website enabled for you. And we'll show later, the website will have all the properties of common look and feel. You go in, you can choose your colors, your fonts, your kinds of navigation. It's a very, very flexible, and you have a very, very detailed control. You can go in and change pretty much any aspect of this, how you want your website to look, even though it's going to stay common look and feel, and you're not going to compromise the basic design of common look and feel. And just an example, for example, aboriginal.ubc.ca, we enabled the platform, and a couple of guys built it themselves. Maybe, let me show you a couple of other sites really quickly. One is interesting, giving.-med, I think, medicine. I don't know if you have it there, maybe listed. This one is interesting because there was a person who came in from medicine, and he said, well, you know what? I'm a journalist, and I have to kind of do the medicine website, and I'm not really into design, and I don't really get it, and I don't really care about design. But then we just opened the site for him, and he did this site in a matter of hours, all by himself, without knowing WordPress, without caring about design, and he got really excited, sent us a huge thank you email, and now they want to do the medicine.ubc.ca and everything else by using this platform. And kind of if you think from sort of administrative point of view, it opens up all sorts of questions. Now, if I'm faculty of medicine, what does it mean for my navigation? What does it mean for my kind of common look and feel within medicine and so on? And there is an easy answer because technology is there. It's easy really to create templates, let's say for medicine only. You can just actually export your look and feel from here, import in a new site, and you're up and running. Sorry, that was the first question here.
I guess it was partly answered, but if I want to start right now I can just go and start with my CWL.
You would simply go to cms.ubc.ca, log in with your CWL, and request your free website. And we would just, the only thing is we would pick up your kind of stats, who you are, where you're coming from, because we don't want anyone, that is not really associated with UBC to kind of start hosting who knows what on the site.
And we're going to come back to the CMS side of things more in depth later in the session. But
No, for sure, please.
Well, I want to answer later, but it's just I was actually looking at WordPress last night, and it seemed that the basic service does have some restrictions in terms of number of users that can be on at the same time, or just space or traffic.
WordPress is often second or third most kind of visited platform in the world. WordPress.com, last time I checked, was over 40 million users, like a couple of million simultaneous. So it can scale indefinitely.
You can scale indefinitely.
It can scale, especially now that we have it on VM with IT, so we can just throw resources. So for example, we used to have the MySQL database. Now we have 1,024 MySQL databases, and each is full, maybe 0.5%.
Okay,
so
basically, that's all up in my head, but we don't have to worry about
you don't have to worry about anything. Some of the most, for example, we are hosting elearning.ubc.ca. Every student that needs to go to Vista has to go to the website. We have occasionally hundreds of thousands of unique visits an hour, and we, didn't go down. We'll go down. I'm sure everything goes down, but so far so good. I mean, you throw CPU power, you throw RAM, network space, it can grow indefinitely. Yeah.
The other restriction for WordPress, which may not be the case anymore, is if you wanted private, non-public space, you could only have 30 members.
No, that's WordPress.com.
All right.
So basically, there are two things. Okay, there is WordPress.com and there is WordPress.org. WordPress.com is basically a company that is using WordPress.org open software to develop their business. We could set up a company called, thebestwordpress.com and get the software and run our business and come up with all sorts of rules and regulations. But the software is, they're also kind of the founders of this open source foundation and contributors. But it has nothing to do with it. There is no restrictions. Once you run the software yourself, you can do whatever you like with it.
For a UBC blog, then, we can have all 70 students privately in a private conversation.
Absolutely. So, for example, our base site, which is called blogs.ubc.ca, has over 7,000 users right now. By the fact of logging in, you become a member of that site, so we can send updates if you need to and so on. So that's already over 7,000 right now.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify the privacy issue, because of course we know it's a big wide world and lots of people can come, but I didn't realize there was a .com and a .org.
Yeah, .org is basically open source foundation versus .com is a business.
And we're going to come back and walk through each of these services in a little more detail, and we'll show privacy settings and how to enable that. So the last sort of example we wanted to show, and by the way, I should have probably started this off, but my background is I'm a graduate getting my MLS and library skills, so I'm all about organization, and I think Novak's all about ideas, so I'm trying to force sort of a path. So it's great if we get off, but just that's my background of why I'm pushing us on. So anyways, the last example is a large unit has content that must be constantly updated by lots of different people. So you have a website with information. That information is not necessarily in any one single person's purview to update. You might have something like this conference where you have a lot of different people who might be needing to update different syllabuses. So what's our solution to that? We said Wiki plus CMS, and I'm just going to show an example really quick of what I mean by that.
So this is really cool, and again, this is something that's completely developed at UBC and is becoming really popular. We see now other universities implementing that, and the idea, you want to start with, okay, let's say e-learning. Maybe you can open, so e-learning website. Again, we needed something at UBC really for kind of educational technologies, faculty and so on, to understand what technologies are there, what do they mean. If I'm new faculty, I really want to know what's, maybe mouse over, like what is, let's say, what is ePortfolio, or what is Clicker, or what is open education or podcast or whatever. So there's like a little site that kind of documents and explains those things. So if you, let's say, go to ePortfolios or Clickers or any of those links, I can go in there. Oh, you're already there. Okay, so I can kind of see what is it, and I can, you can read uses and benefits, maybe see a couple of examples at UBC and so on. And let's say one of you guys really like clickers, and then you have this awesome course in clickers, and you're like, students are engaged, and you're getting great results and so on, and you want to share what you just kind of realized. And so how would you do that? You would have to find who is behind this website. So you would have to kind of send either me or someone else an email and say, hey guys, can you please put this in as an example? And that would be like a slow process, and we would either put you as an administrator of the site or get your content, copy and paste. So we removed that. So it shouldn't be there. That's wrong, and it shouldn't be there. So the way we kind of tackle this, if you look at this page, clickers page, which is one page even though it has these tabs, this page actually lives on UBC Wiki. So now, this is where kind of the true identity of this page is. The other one is just a ghost or whatever. So basically, all those links that we saw a minute ago, what is it, uses and benefits, whatever, it's all here. And if you want to change this page now, you would log in with your CEWL and just change it. Just add what you like. As simple as that. So now, we kind of played a little experiment with library. And they love it. Now they manage all their content within Wiki and republishing on multiple websites. So let's say if you have hours 9 to 4 and over summer you want to, or over exam period you want to go 9 to 8, you update in Wiki and boom, all the libraries are up to date. You don't have to worry about it. Like 50 websites, all up to date. And I'm sure the first question will be, what prevents me to go in and put some false information about some department? Well, there are lots of ways that you can control this. You can link to a certain version. If you look at any page on UBC Wiki, like every other wiki, you're probably familiar with Wikipedia, every change on the page is recorded and you can always go to the history. So I could say, look, because I'm really comfortable with the version done by, let's say, on this date before, let's say, these other guys took over, I'm going to link to this version. And then I don't care for the consequent changes. I'm going to link to that version, and every few months, I'm going to check if everything looks good, I'm going to update, or whatever I need. So let's say people who are, let's say, working in clickers can add their examples, and then I will say, OK, this looks good. Boom, it's done. Or even if, for most things, I personally love to keep it wide open, because in about 2 years of UBC Wiki, we didn't have a single act of vandalism. It's CEWL, so it's pretty open. If you're crazy enough to vandalize a page with your CEWL, well, go ahead. I mean, so.
So that's sort of a brief overview of the different tools we've developed. And this has sort of come up, but all these tools that we are hosting and have developed here at UBC are also available out there in the world, whether from WordPress.com, from your own installation of WordPress, from using different wiki services like PBWiki, from using different blogs like Blogger. So one of the questions we just wanted to talk about, so why use the UBC resources?
And I think we covered a lot of that, but basically kind of the fact that it's hosted here and that we know what we are doing in terms of technology. It's well supported. We have Mondays and Thursdays right there in that big room, Fraser River room. We have WordPress Clinic. Anyone is welcome. It's drop-in. There's usually 3 or 4 people. If you leave a comment on CMS, we'll make sure to have more people if more people sign up, though you don't even have to sign up. We are using open source technologies. For example, WordPress.org currently has, I think, 7,000 or 8,000 different plugins available. So they're developed by people. And so if you think, well, I would love to have a plugin that will, I don't know, like if I type in the name of the bird, will play the sound, chances are it's already there because somebody probably thought about it earlier. So there is a lot of great content there. We do not, though, install every plugin that we see, of course. We are very conservative. We don't want to we want to make sure that whatever plugin a kid in Romania wrote 3 years ago, is solid. So we have a process. Once, if you find the plugin that you would like to use, we would actually check it before we put it up, and there's kind of simple ways to make sure that everything is okay. But in principle, it's fantastic. The open source community, this model works really well, and we see basically the whole landscape is shifting. The things are changing. We see big universities going open source on a number of levels, and things are again working really well so far.
And again, just to sort of a little bit go through the list, hosted on UBC servers, we have very little downtime. We're at 99.9% up. Yeah. Supported, we have the support structures. We're developing support documentation. We have our office is constantly responding to emails, and I think that's important. A lot of sort of private firms, if you're building if you're using a private company or going through a development process with a private firm, they keep their developers isolated from the sort of support structure. This is great because our developers actually respond to support tickets, so they can easily say, this is why it's not working, rather than having to go through intermediaries. The standard open platforms, Novak talked about open source. One of the nice things about that is it's being used around the world, so these are very stable platforms that we've chosen. You can go out, if you're stuck at something, you can just go out and Google, like, why isn't this working? And you'll find tons of forums and documentation out there just sort of open on the web. The ongoing development, so we're constantly trying to make these services better. We have developers constantly reviewing plugins, adding new structures. We understand UBC culture. We're here at UBC. We understand the differences between faculties, that sort of general university culture. Audience tailored, so we try to gear our tools towards the audiences that are most likely to be using them. And then CEWL, and I'm going to come back to that in a sec, which is very important. CLF, so for the CMS system, we've developed that common look and feel for UBC. So you get the UBC branding, it's already built into it. You don't have to actually have that rebuilt again. And then probably best of all, it's free. There's no cost whatsoever for using these services.
If you have a website designed externally on WordPress and you want to migrate it here, but you don't want to have the UBC banner and that kind of thing, is that possible?
We do host, I would say, about 20 different themes. If it's a UBC website, something.ubc.ca, I think you can change the theme and you can choose one of the available themes. But I think chances are public affairs will go kind of after people that should have branding, but they don't. Like, if it's an event or if it's a student organization, I guess they'll be fine. But for kind of departmental, for units, for faculties, it's assumed to have a common look and feel. And I just kind of want to quickly, cover a couple of points that we already talked about. So understanding UBC culture is a big one. And we are now in the process of working with faculty support units. We are having excellent relationship with arts. They're going to use CMS as their platform of choice. Faculty of forestry is there. We have probably over 40 websites already from Faculty of Medicine. Library is moving all their websites. So we are trying to kind of push that expertise to the faculty support units so that they can also help the end users. They can also help faculty. If you think about kind of typical scenario, if you want a website and you would go to small, super cool downtown company with purple and black walls and whatever. So, you'll pay arm and leg to design and develop a website. And guess what? 85% of that cost will go to common look and feel, if you want to do CEWL, and some things that are already taken care of. So kind of we remove that whole overhead of technology. And even after you pay lots of money for your website will be hosted on a server, who knows where, it's not going to be updated, and you're going to pay tons of money to update it, and chances are you're going to lose your username. And then 3 years later, everything will collapse, and you have a new budget to build a new website. So this is kind of what typically happens, and what you're trying to kind of address here. And another thing from the list here that I would like to emphasize is the kind of audience tailored. So if you look at these 3 different spaces that we have, UBC Blogs is very open. You have a huge amount of themes that you can use. And the idea was really, if student goes in, you can use it as your portfolio. Instructor or faculty can build the course space easily. But then on the CMS side, it's really packaged. It's about administrative unit having a decent common look and space. So the whole idea is really to kind of tailor your experience to what is expected that space to do. And finally, let's say UBC Wiki, even though we have common look and feel, did we open Wiki yet? I don't think so. Yeah, okay. So, but it does look like Wikipedia. So you, again, know what to expect, you understand that experience, and you want to use it. And even though we kind of changed quite a few things from there, and we'll go through that into more details, it's still kind of in a nutshell, it is MediaWiki, it is kind of Wikipedia. So that's what we meant by audience tailored.
And then just to sort of reemphasize, and this is what's really important to me. This is our logo we developed for blogs, but having the CEWL is a huge component. So if you have students who are signing up for a class blog, they don't have to go and start a new account somewhere and type it in. They can just go into their CEWL. That CEWL also prevents a certain amount of, I don't know what you would call it, but of vandalism or online harassment or anything happening, because none of these services are anonymous services. They're all tied to user CEWLs. So that sort of promotes a culture and a community here at UBC. And I think it's a really important part in all the tools that we're offering. A, it's very easy. You can always just go in with your CWL, and B, it is limited. So there's not outside people necessarily coming in. You can sponsor CWLs for outside people if you're trying to use that. And there's no, like, students kind of understand that they're not anonymous when they're in there, so they're not going to go and leave a nasty comment. So.
Just to extend on that a little bit, if I have a class of 120 students, enrollment management in whatever space, virtual space that we're using can become an issue and is a real appeal to some of the standard learning management systems. Almost the hinder for a lot of people is like, well, I don't want to manage student enrollment, and if a student drops the course, I don't want to have to manually engage them. So where are we with that with respect to enrollment management, SIS integration, or anything like that with these tools?
So we do have CWL, we don't have SIS integration. And that's something that we would love to have, and unfortunately this is not really in our domain. We have to work closely with other units on campus to deliver that. Hopefully it will happen sooner rather than later, and I cannot commit to any deadline. But we did a number of things that could, you know, at least make that process less frustrating. So, for example, we have a couple of plugins that will kind of semi-automate the process. If you have emails of your students, you can simply paste your emails into the box and click send, and they will get all the invite, and they will log in and it will be in your course. So that would be one thing. I think it also works with either student number or CWL names. You can invite them that way. And I know with student numbers, you can download them from your SIS, the student registration listing. So that actually speeds up the process a lot. We also do have a couple of plugins where students can self-sign up. And the typical scenario would be you would go to, let's say, Math 101, and then you would simply share and say, hey guys, if you want to enroll into, like, please do enroll here, and there would be a button that says add me to the course, and they would have to know the password. And simply password could be like hello, you would share it with your class, or put it in Vista announcement or somewhere, and then they would be in. And then you would close the registration after students come in. So there are a couple of mechanisms that make the process at least a little bit easier. We don't have too much complaints about the process itself. I know it would be wonderful if you could have the full SIS integration and even more the gradebook kind of thing. But unfortunately, there's still nothing there, at least on the gradebook side. Versus with SIS, it's like the only thing that exists really is kind of Vista is connected through SIS, but there was a huge project, and it's very unlikely that they have resources now to help us with that at this point. But we are planning, and with the new UBC IT is running a new identity management project, and one of the things would be to be able to provide the API for SIS. And I think that's one of the kind of the functionalities that will come sooner. So once that's available, that will be another way to connect.
Oh, go ahead. Did you have a?
It's unrelated. It's
okay. So at this point, we just wanted to take maybe just a 3-minute break, and if you haven't had a chance to at least look at our wiki and our blogs site. So we're going to be getting a little bit more into them in some sort of group participation later. But if you haven't had a chance, just go visit wiki.ubc.ca or blogs.ubc.ca.
So you can create an account using your CWL, and you can even, if you can create a blog, or you can create a wiki page. A note, if you just want to play with it, on the left there is something called Sandbox under Wiki Spaces, so you can go there and do whatever you like. This is kind of really a playground area, but more than that, it stays there. So,
yeah. So and just to sort of get a feel for that, I think we'll probably just keep moving on since we're going to run out of time. If that's okay. So we're going to talk, actually we can do this together. We're going to talk more about UBC Blogs in depth. So go ahead. So we wanted to ask, what does a blog mean to you? And just sort of open that up for a discussion. Does anybody?
I
Go ahead.
Keeps the blogs, but I was told to use the tool in many different ways, just for my own purposes. I keep quite a few that are private and cram every kind of copyrighted material I find on the web, so it's all collected together, and then I can quickly put together my project. So those never see the light of day, but I use them all the time. And then I have my mental legs kind of broken up into different spaces, you know, UBC being one of them, and maybe I have some theory related pieces. So I can actually use them as notebooks.
Okay.
And then the one that I'm using quite a lot to my students is I have a companion blog to my course.
Okay.
Where I give tutorials about, hey, because a little video is worth way more than 1,000 words. And yeah, I get great results with that. But also I have a little treat on Fridays. I post something relevant to the course that's multimedia, interesting, spicy, and that's getting a great response too.
So I think you basically covered probably half of the things here. So blogs, personal publishing, e-portfolio, link repository, resource repository. And that's basically, you know, what was the idea with UBC Blogs, really open a flexible space that you can use it for really any kind of purpose. After we introduced this kind of social networking layer on the top of the blogs, we kind of wrote a little thing there, and maybe you can open under support, like about page, which really describes certain scenarios on what you can use the blogs for. So basically, teaching and learning, and then a couple of examples about private research or course forum for collaboration purposes. You can run it as a project management tool, a small groups intranet, or document management tool. It can be used for communication and marketing. We see a lot of student groups, social networking. We have forums and again groups. As a content management tool, if you don't really need the common look and feel, and you just want to throw the space together in like 2 minutes, so that would be the kind of typical usage of blogs. Are you logging in? How many of you actually had an account on UBC Blogs prior to? Okay, so you've been, okay, so we don't maybe need to spend that much time.
So I just wanted to give a brief tour of a couple of features that aren't used a lot, which are the groups and forums. So when you log into Blogs, you'll get an account, and you'll be on your home screen. It'll look like this. You can go to groups, and you'll see the groups that you belong to, or all groups, and all the groups that you can belong to. And then you can also create a group. And a group is basically just an online sort of group. Within the group, you can have forums for discussion. So it's an easy way. I can just create a group very easily in a few seconds. And then I can go ahead and say, I created this group for general, study and course, projects, initiatives, community. And this is basically to make it easier for other people to find groups that they're interested in.
And also for us to kind of learn about demographics and maybe adjust the tools.
So if a student wants a group on bird photography, they can create that group. They can make it public. We don't really set definitions of what groups or what blogs should be used for. We host the platform, and people are able to go out and use it for whatever purpose they want. There are a number of different privacy settings. I won't go through this. So you can have groups that are completely invisible. They don't show up anywhere, so no one can search and find them. On the other end, you can have groups that are completely public. So not only can people search and find them, they can also just become a member instantly of the group by saying join this group.
As long as they have CEWL.
As long as they have CEWL. And sorry, when I talk about using these tools, it's always for people who have CEWL who are going in and editing them. And then you can have sort of the middle where the group is public, but you have to either request membership or be invited to join that group in order to be able to see the forums and the discussion. So it's a nice sort of tool just for informal discussion, and it is being used by some courses to just sort of manage online discussion bases. So, and with that, I wanted to just sort of show once you get blogs, you'll have, again, your blogs or my blogs. You can have as many blogs as you want. I was just going to show the easiest way to do it is you can go, when you hit blogs, you can do create a blog. You can have it in seconds. Will's blog. And then here is your different privacy settings when you actually set it up. So you can say, I would like my blog to be visible to everyone, including search engines. I would like my blog to block search engines, but allow people to still visit it. I would like to be visible only to registered network subscribers, so
Which is blogs at UBC.
people who are in the blog system. I would like my site to be visible only to site subscribers, so people you've actually signed up to allow to see your site. Or I'd like my blog to be visible only to site administrators, those people who have the power to go in and edit the blog. So there is 5 different levels of privacy settings, and you can sort of pick and choose which one to use depending on how you're using it. So I'm just going to go ahead and create this one really quick. Just pick a couple things. Oh, someone already owns.
So now Will's blog is available under My Blogs. So if you have like a 10 or so blogs, you can always quickly find them here. Some of them can be private, where you can store, different things like the example you gave, or it can be course blogs.
So, and this is the back end of WordPress. So this is called the dashboard, and this is sort of where you manage all the content in a blog or in WordPress. We're not going to get too much into it, but I just wanted to show a couple things. It's important on the tools we develop that we're not just developing them for individual people or individual units. We're trying to develop them for university-wide. So we don't necessarily enable plugins, which are small bits of code that allow special features for individual users. We test them out and make sure that they're stable, they're going to work, and that they're scalable, that they'll work on all sites that we enable. So we do everything sort of tool-wide, site-wide for the entire university. So with that, we pick a number of themes that people can use. So I'm just going to go into appearances. You saw the basic sort of setup of what the blog looked like. I can go in and choose the different themes. So we support about 31 themes. So you can make your blog look 31 different ways, and we choose the most stable, widely used themes.
And just to know that some themes are so flexible that even though you kind of commit to one theme, you can make it look anything you like. So there is the new default theme for WordPress called 2010, which you can change pretty much every aspect of that theme, and you can make it look in so many different ways. So it's almost like leaving that one theme is good enough to have all these different kinds of looks and feels.
So I switched my blog to the 20 theme.
So it starts like this,
so
very basic,
looks like this.
And then you can customize so many things out of it.
And I can show you, this is another blog I periodically update, and that's the same theme, but I've modified it completely to have a different look and feel.
Just a note while we're here, if you guys go to blogs.ubc.ca/pulsepress, I'll give you a minute to find the page. If you please first log into UBC Blogs, so blogs.ubc.ca, and then if you're logged in, go to PulsePress. So we showed you a minute ago the way to administer content. So we'll give you a little bit of overview of how the dashboard looks like, where you can create posts and so on. And I already talked about the idea of kind of pushing content from external sources and publishing it automatically. There are also like APIs, so you can, if you have a Flickr account, you can connect to the blog and publish through that. The PulsePress, I'm not sure if you guys are getting there. PulsePress, like a PulsePress. And so here we kind of removed the creating of the blog overhead from backend right here. So you can create your post right here. And actually, how about for the next 10 minutes, or maybe longer if you like it, don't ask us any questions, just type it in there. And I'll open it here. So if you had a question, instead of kind of asking it in person, just type it in there. Maybe few of you guys, if you don't mind, you can just try it out. This is something that we've developed very recently, so I hope it works.
So this is our microblogging Twitter-like feature, and it came out of an idea that SADA brought to us, that they were having classes of 1,000 people, and they wanted to have a way for students to ask questions, sort of on a back channel that then the professor or the TA could monitor and bring forward. So there's a couple different features to it. You can ask a question and tag it. You can then vote up questions. So like I just voted for this one. It's 1 up. And then you can go in and go into popular. There might be some stuff from old. And you can see the most popular questions. So it's a way for students to sort of say, I have this question too. So if you're teaching a big lecture and somebody doesn't understand anything, and it's a 1,000 student lecture hall or something, they can vote for it. It can float to the top of the popular pile, and that can actually be addressed right there in class.
Do you mean you would run Postpress during your lecture?
That's exactly what Sauter wanted it for.
Yeah, so it will be like a Twitter feed, but it's controlled environment. You can keep it private, and you can kind of grow resources. So let's say if I'm teaching here, and I say, well, whatever, and then a student doesn't understand, he or she can ask a question, and perhaps one in the class can reply to the question before I even see it, if I run it. So, and then maybe the instructor can decide to give extra points for participation, kind of peer-to-peer help, and so on.
So how does Sauter's lecture not interfere with my lecture? Or we're not?
Oh, no. This is basically kind of the WordPress blog that we enabled and let everyone come in. Yeah, this is actually just a kind of our playground. Yeah. But then you can create a course, and if you choose a theme called WordPress, it will be completely locked down, or it can be open if you like it open.
Do you mean in addition to your course companion blog, you would have another one that's called WordPress?
Exactly. Or you can take another take. You can basically, you see how we have here your feed, your course feed? You can have here course notes, and that can be your kind of standard classic blog. And then you can have whatever, syllabus, whatever. So you can grow your full blog, course blog, and just using this theme to enable the homepage to be kind of your, tool for people.
So instead
Tutor-like experience.
of posting in a traditional way, the students are doing all the posting.
Yeah. So you can still have your backend, and you can still organize everything else neatly and in kind of in a standard way. But then you would just open another channel for kind of, they don't need to log in, they don't need to know anything, they just need to subscribe, and they go in and ask questions. And again, this is something that is there is a similar application, but it's not really, it kind of takes tweets and takes different things. This is completely developed here at UBC, and we are getting fantastic response from their 3 instructors in Sauter testing it. They're the first testers. It's available. Anyone who wants to use it, please go ahead and apply this theme. We would like to hear the feedback. Some things that we learned were one instructor wanted more minimalistic. He didn't want like things like tags or archives or whatever, everything that you can see actually on the side, voting or any of that. He just wanted the most basic Twitter experience, while some other instructors wanted more than that. They wanted all of that plus a few other things. So basically what we're hoping to do is to, over the summer, maybe work on this a little bit more and have almost like, oh, I want Twitter-like experience or I want Facebook-like experience. So you can really provide your students a familiar environment that kind of matches what they're used to anyways, and still being in kind of secure place with their CEWL and behind the UBC's wall.
Well, if one runs one's course totally on WebCT Vista and maybe has Google Classroom linked, why would you need any of this, or is it just another little toy?
Yeah, it's exactly that. Because some people just say, well, you know what, I really don't like Vista for whatever reason, and they may decide that, that they like these technologies better. It's completely optional. We see the students tend to like these technologies better than some other more traditional systems.
And a good point is the different tools such as PulsePress have different functionality, and it's really about choosing what tools work best for you. And we don't, as Novak sort of said at the beginning, like if WebCT is working great, or if using Twitter rather than something like this is working great, by all means definitely use those. This sort of grew out of a Twitter-like need where it needed to be more private space, so you can have this in a completely private. I see one of the questions is, can I use tags just to see posts for my own course? And again, this is a demonstration space, so it's wide open. But again, you could have your own course sort of installation of this. So it's just limited to the people you invite to that space to get into, and then you can tag it however you want, and it will just search that particular course. The way I use blogs as a student, or see my instructors using blogs, in sort of 2 different ways. The first way is they basically put their course notices up. So every week before class, I can check the course and see if the classroom's been moved or just see if there's additional readings or whatnot. So that's a really nice, like I don't have to get a million emails in my inbox there. The other way I see it being used a lot is instructors are asking students to write a blog post, and then there's usually a discussion in the comments about that. So there'll be a course-wide blog. Each student has to write a blog post like once a week or not, like one student takes 1 week, et cetera. And then it's a nice way to start a discussion in the comments because they're usually threaded. The actual topic of discussion's right there. Like, so having used WebCT, like I actually don't like the sort of generalized forums because you get that, those forums aren't actually necessarily connected right to the content. So it's nice to have the conversation in the space where the content is. So just a couple different perspectives.
To students who are constantly offered or asked to get a new online presence in a new format on a new site, it seems the pattern that I've observed, and this is partly in doing a master's thesis, is the quality and opportunity for creating good pedagogy is essential. It's not easy to do, and I'm afraid to say, but it's worth saying, that I've seen it done badly a lot. You know, we all know that. It's sort of an obvious statement. But to do it well, then, well, what do? Individually, it's very difficult for me anyway to invent a new sort of frame of pedagogy independently of a community of practice. And so I guess I'm putting in a little bit of a plug for whatever resources we can find in terms of colleagues, people who have done it before, that we can talk to in a human way as a colleague, an instructor, find out how they do it and how they make it work. And we'll develop our own professional pedagogical standards. Because it's really easy to just go, oh, I'm going to give them a blog, and it's a bit of a reflective assignment, and then things emerge that just don't make sense and cause clutter for students. They're being overloaded with this kind of stuff. And I'm not alone in seeing that in a research perspective. And so if we are giving it to them to use, because we think it's cool or new, or we want them to access these new skills, or we want to make our teaching more interesting, whatever it is, we really have a kind of a new responsibility of developing the pedagogy around it. There are brilliant people around, and there are many of us who just don't have that much time to do. So the summary of what I'm saying, I'm being really emphatic on purpose, to share practice with people whenever possible is essential. And if we don't do that, the chances of surviving, or the students not suffering, is pretty slim.
Yeah. I mean, these are all excellent points, and basically the whole presentation today is a small effort to really share what we have. And of course, we are not instructors or faculty, but we do help, and we see that it's really, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I think it's just sometimes a matter of personality. If you're a person that are kind of attracted to these kind of technologies, you'll be able to express yourself perhaps better than you would otherwise, and you may have some students inspired, and they may take advantage of using these kind of technologies. And overall, I think they are very much aligned with their kind of other social ways of doing things online. But the critical piece there is what you just said about communicating your findings and making those examples visible. And this is where we see the fantastic opportunity with working not only with faculty, but kind of passing that knowledge and enabling the faculty support units as the key players at university level that understand the culture of their own unit. So for example, we are at the Center for Teaching and Learning, and we do kind of course, work with many on campus, but we don't pretend that we understand like what is the kind of local culture and what are the kind of history of web applications or other applications that are being used, let's say, on land and food systems, because they had a whole history of running their own things. But if someone there in their faculty support unit is exposed to this and building sites in CMS and using wiki resources and helping with blogs, then we can kind of collaboratively build that knowledge and being able to pass it and document it to others on campus. And this is where we see fantastic opportunity.
And so just moving on, we do offer WordPress training sessions offered here through the CTLT. The next one's on June 14th, and then there's an advanced one on June 23rd. These can be signed up for on the CTLT website. If you go to ctlt.ubc.ca and then click on events, you'll see all the different things that the CTLT is offering.
Yeah, this is so we do host clinics every Monday and Thursday, 1 to 3 here in this office. It might be this room or the other room, or there is a resource room. And this is done by the other group, but we work closely together. And any kind of advanced questions you can also send to us.
So these are great for just sort of getting your hands into WordPress. They're more classroom style. The clinics are if you're having a problem and you're not understanding why something, just to come and drop in, and it's a one-on-one sort of session. It should be under events.
Under events, okay.
Yeah. And I have a couple of questions here that I kind of try to reply, but I think I have at least 2 questions and a couple of likes or votes, whatever you call it, on the kind of using tags. So I'll just quickly show you that. So for example, if we are here today in this room and I say we are presenting, I could call it, let's say, tag would be Pulse Press, because this is, we're discussing, or tag can be simply tag or whatever, or let's say CTLT. So if I now post this, I can see all my tags here, and obviously it didn't pick up the last one. This is work in progress. But anyways, actually here we go, CTLT. So I just created a tag. So now because I tagged it, CTLT shows up here. So if you are using this system for whatever reason, you may encourage your students, or you can filter content by applying tags. So that's the idea of tags. And I think I'm not sure who asked the question, so I don't know if I answered it well. Okay.
All right, so we're going to move on to another platform, which is the Wiki. Hang on. Sorry, I got to get my cursor going. So a wiki is a little bit different space from what we've been talking about on blogs or CMS. So a wiki is a tool for distributed collaboration. And I always like to throw in that a wiki is not the same thing as Wikipedia, nor WikiLeaks. I think people hear the term wiki and they think it's a specific thing, but it's actually a tool. It's not a necessary site. But I think it's helpful to sort of look at Wikipedia to sort of get a good understanding of the sort of philosophy behind wikis. So in the year 2000, Jimmy Wales and Larry Sanger launched their first encyclopedia. And those are the guys who eventually went on to start Wikipedia. And they had this great sort of idea out there, and that leads to this question. So they wanted to ask that suppose scholars all over the world could write an online encyclopedia that anybody could access from anywhere. So scholars could come in, create a scholarly encyclopedia, and it would be freely distributable. And at that time, that was a pretty radical concept of the idea of this scholarly information being able to be accessed and reused by anybody in the world. Now with that, they sort of set up a very traditional model. And their model was scholars would write these articles and would go through a peer review process. So before the articles actually showed up on the online encyclopedia, which was called Newpedia, they would get peer reviewed, they'd make sure it was actually scholarly information, and then it would go online. So it had this radical concept that anybody could access that information, but a rather traditional scholarly model. So the question was, how quickly would that encyclopedia grow? And the answer was not very quickly. So they launched Newpedia in the year 2000, in the March of 2000, and by November 2000, they had published 2 full-length articles. So it was a very slow process. 9 more months go by and they get up to 20 finished articles. So they took that sort of rather innovative idea, those 20 articles anybody could access, but it was a very slow scholarly process. So from that, they kind of had this idea to go back and look at the idea of wikis. So in 1995, Ward Cunningham was credited with creating the first wiki. And he had a very radical thought, which is that groups that collaborate tend to trust one another. That was very different from the idea of people can go out and publish things, but it must be reviewed by editors, by copywriters, and then put online by only the online sort of webmasters. So he observed that most of the tools for collaboration at the time were concerned with complex collections of roles and requirements. Only designated writers could write articles, only editors could edit those articles, and only webmasters could actually go out and put those up. So he created the first wiki, which was called the Wiki Web. And wiki, he discovered, was a Hawaiian word for fast, or for quick. So he originally planned on calling this the Quick Web, because it was quick. You didn't have to go through these various steps of getting something online. And at that time, you even had to use like an FTP process, which was a slow file transfer process to get your updates. So normally it would happen, as I sort of mentioned, a writer would write, it would get edited, it would go to a third person, that third person would go through the complex procedure of getting it online. So he was at a conference and he saw the Wiki shuttle in Honolulu, which was the quick shuttle, and decided that was a better name. So that's where the word wiki comes from. So his 3 ideas that are part of wikis, of every wiki, is that every page has an edit link. There's version control, so every time somebody saves, edits a page and saves it, it saves the edit, but it also saves the previous version of the wiki and the previous version of that article, and you can go back and view all versions as the article's been built up. So, and that there's no distinction between the reader and writer. Writers can go in, or readers can go in and read the article. If they see something that's wrong or that needs to be updated, they can click the edit link, correct the mistake, add extra information, change things around, hit save, and it's there. They've just crossed the line that before was a very complex, slow result. So just looking back to Wikipedia for a sec. So in 2001, the 2 guys who had formed Newpedia at that time realized it was a very slow process, and they wanted something to basically make it a little faster. So they liked this idea of wikis, and they decided to create a wiki to basically sort of seed articles, that they would put the articles sort of on the wiki, and they would help people sort of generate ideas, get information, and sort of build articles. And then they'd bring the wiki articles back into the Newpedia in sort of a scholarly process. So it was just sort of a collaboration tool, nothing really they had planned on being its own encyclopedia in the right. So the result was it was very easy to create articles, but the oversight board hated it. They thought this was contrary to how scholarly work happened, and basically said it offended their mission of creating a rigorously controlled knowledge base. So what they said is, they said, that's a great tool, but you can't have it associated with Newpedia. We want it on its own space. So the Larry Sanger and Jimmy Wales basically said, okay, we're going to create it as a separate site called Wikipedia. So if you remember, they had 20 articles about after 10 months with Newpedia. In the first year of Wikipedia, they had 15,000 articles. And Wikipedia is still alive to this day. It's very used. I'm sure all of your students use it from time to time. You probably use it. So it sort of proved that there was a viable model for this idea of lack of structure, lack of roles, and sort of collaboration in an online environment. So I just wanted to sort of go through the UBC Wiki a little bit. It runs on MediaWiki, which is the open source software platform. So our blogs run on WordPress. MediaWiki is the software. As Novak pointed out earlier, it's the exact same software that Wikipedia runs on. So it's a very familiar looking software to a lot of people. Again, note the CEWL login, and that's sort of a key component to the offering. So Wikipedia has a very focused purpose, and its purpose is to be an encyclopedia. The UBC Wiki doesn't really have that. We defined it as a collaborative space for creating and sharing resources. So it's not really a structured, it's only for encyclopedias. It's more of a loose, here's a tool, here's a space that people can come in and pretty much do what they want. So it has more purposes and less focuses than something like Wikipedia would have. So and that can create some issues. For example, what if someone comes in and creates a page called My Presentation? What does that mean? Like, what if I want to create a page called My Presentation? So there's some organizational difficulties around the UBC Wiki, and that's what I spend a lot of my time sort of looking at doing is the different organization and how do we make information that's on the wiki presentable and findable. So these are the sort of 4 what I like to describe as emerging purposes of the UBC Wiki. People are using it as a tool for creating and storing course-related information. People are using it as a personal and collaborative workspace. People are using it as a documentation repository, so they're putting their unit documentation or their course documentation into it, and then they can update it there. They can have various people come in and update it. Oftentimes, especially when you're looking at unit documentation that lives on someone's hard drive and it has to be updated every couple of years, no one knows who's got the newest version. If it's on the wiki, it's always there. People can always constantly be updating as that information comes new. And then it's finally a repository for everything and anything UBC related.
I would just like to revisit something that we kind of opened up with and talking about why should I use, let's say, UBC Blogs or UBC Wiki versus some external tools. And kind of going back to what we showed earlier, the whole idea of the audience tailored. So basically, if you look at Wiki is an excellent example, but the same thing applies to both UBC Blogs and CMS. If you look at kind of the look and feel of, let's say, UBC Wiki, we definitely wanted to keep that idea of being in Wikipedia-like tools. So you can go in there and you know what to expect and you know how the application behaves. But we also, one of the biggest goals was also to be able to provide the best possible experience for all these diverse audiences at UBC. So not only in a sense of logging with CEWL, but also kind of trying to be proactive and understand what audiences would love to have there. So because of that reason, we introduced 4 different spaces: main space, course, documentation, and sandbox, and we'll cover that in a moment. But the whole idea of, if we were Wikipedia, we would simply have exactly the same thing and it would work well, but it wouldn't be the best it could be for its purpose. And again, we are learning a lot, we are getting feedback, and we are adjusting these tools as we go ahead with new functionalities. But similarly with UBC CMS, we took the WordPress and we got all the best from WordPress, but we also, we'll show that later, have the UBC Common Look and Feel theme that you can use to make your websites, and UBC Blogs as well. In addition to, again, using WordPress, we have a number of tools that are tailored for students to be easy to create your e-portfolio, create your course contact, or basically collaborate, like the example of the Pulse Press that we have here. So that's kind of the answer. I think that's a kind of topic that kind of keeps coming back. Again, excellent tools outside, but we are really trying to put those tools into university context and even more specifically into UBC's context.
So I just wanted to give a very brief tour of those sort of different purposes in these different spaces that we've created. And I'm not going to get too much in depth to them, but the sandbox is sort of that space where we said, okay, you can do anything in the sandbox. It's your page for personal projects, for just trying out the wiki and playing with it. And here's an example of a student who's created a student project that he's working on in the sandbox. So you can go in and see he's constantly developing it. He has multiple pages and subpages. It's a library education, I believe, in the Department of Education. So you can see he's analyzing Kits High School. This next page is kind of nice. He's, he has multimedia embedded into the page. Different images he's uploaded. He has descriptions of it. So that's sort of one example. It's his own personal assignment. He's working with a professor. Instead of sort of writing a paper, he's doing it in a wiki format of that. So the next sort of space, just briefly to talk about, is the documentation space. And this is where it's great to have that sort of documentation, whether it's a faculty guide or like how do you use the printer. A lot of people are starting to put that in here. So you can see Botany IT's documentation, like information about their file server. The CTLT has a lot of information.
So if you have a department and you would like to find the space to share, like how to run your printer, you can just throw it on a wiki here. Yeah. Why not? And then the other example we showed earlier was about the website. So you can manage your content here, and if you have multiple websites that you need to display the same content, you would simply call that content from all these different locations.
So faculty resource guide is another example of basically documentation that people put on the wiki. So as this information gets sort of outdated, it's very easy to update. You don't have to search for the right file on the right desktop computer or the right shared network drive to actually be able to update it. It's just right there, and it's a living document rather than sort of a static document. The next space we're seeing used a lot, or next purpose, is the course space. So some instructors are actually deciding that the wiki works really great for their classes, and they're using it in a different variety of ways. I'm just going to show a couple courses really quickly. The math department happens to really like the functionality of it. Here's an example of a course where instead of using something like Vista, they're using the Wiki as a full-on learning management system. So they have a whole course right here developed in the Wiki. You can see all the different course pages, what you'll find. You can see they're asking students to do their homework in here. So you can say, homework 14, due this day. They have the assignment here. Let me just see. They're having discussions go on about that. So students are actually asking. Every wiki page has an associated talk or discussion page. So students are coming in and asking questions of the instructor right there on the wiki. The instructor is getting some email sent back to him. So one of the sort of nice things about the wiki is you can do a lot with this platform. There is a small learning curve to understanding both the organization but also the sort of wiki code language, the wiki markup you need to be able to use. But once you figure that out, you can do a lot with it. For example, the math department asked that we enable Wolfram Alpha widgets, which are math widgets, so that you can go out and create a widget, you can fully embed it right here on the wiki. And for instance, you can also put like Google, like this presentation, our slides are on Google Docs, and we can embed the Google Docs right into the wiki. So it's nice if you have content from other sources, again, sort of taking the information from a lot of places and joining them sort of really thoughtfully in this space. Let me just go back. These are sort of the space. You want to just talk about the genome?
Sure, yeah. So basically the idea, we can go to the main space. The kind of the default space in UBC Wiki is what we call simply main space. We would love to call it UBCpedia, but didn't fly. So the idea here is really to be able to share and contribute content about anything UBC. So you can think of it as a UBC directory. So I always kind of give this example of my wife is in genome research, and she does this little thing called exon. And wouldn't it be great that instead of exon being studied as 7 different departments at UBC through 25 different courses and basically having at least 5 that I know of one-stop shops of anything about exon, wouldn't it be great to have a page on something like UBC Wiki and say exon at UBC is studying through these 4, let's say, faculties, through these institutes, these departments, these guys did a PhD that is talking about exon or touching it to a certain extent, these undergrad courses or these graduate courses. So you can basically pick up a topic and build what does it mean for UBC. So if I'm a student from Germany and I wanted to come to UBC, I could see, let's say, whatever I'm interested in and find all the relevant departments, all the groups, all the poster presentations, journal articles. So the idea is to get there. So to be honest, we are not getting there. It's going to be a lot of time, and first of all, this is like a relatively new platform, but we got some excellent results. So, for example, we have a page on bars and pubs on campus, which is probably more important than Exxon and some other stuff. We also do have a fantastic map of all the places at UBC where you can find coffee. And if you know about a place, you can simply go in here, you can click edit and add a point on the map and basically share your knowledge. You can also create if you like a certain coffee place or whatever, you can create a new page and say, share your experience about how you would treat it.
And sort of a big point in this is that it would be very hard for one person to go out and research something like the exon molecule of how UBC is sort of touching upon that subject, where it's very easy if you're doing that to sort of find a centralized place and add your own information. And sort of another sort of better example than probably the bars and pubs on campus is the UBC Twitter account. So Public Affairs wanted a list of everyone who's got a Twitter account, but it's very hard to go out and, you can search Twitter and you can find a few, but you can't really find a lot. Oh, sorry, so there's this page called UBC Twitter accounts. They ask if you have a Twitter account, add yours here if you're on it. You can see that they have administrative, non-academic units, different student groups.
These are not personal, these are departmental Twitter accounts. Okay.
Yeah, so not necessarily personal accounts, but maybe it would be a good idea to start a page with personal UBC accounts on here, and that would be very easy to do. If you look at the history of the page, you can see it's been edited by a lot of different people. So a lot of people are coming out, finding that Twitter thing and saying, why isn't my Twitter account on that list? Oh, I can just add it myself. Again, so it goes back to that word wiki. It's a very quick way to add information and gather information, and it's decentralized and collaborative. It's not necessarily one group saying, we're collecting this information. If you have it, email us. We're saying you can do it yourself. So we're hoping to get to the exon molecule at that point. Yeah.
Well, my sort of concern is, first of all, you're saying, well, what I'm hearing is that you haven't got everybody on, all faculty or all teachers or whatever on board with all this stuff. But if you do, when are we going to have time to do our own research and teach? Because we'll be playing around in there all the time. I mean, it starts to become a bit overwhelming.
It does,
what we're supposed to be doing, or what we feel we should, so that we will succeed.
Well, there is an excellent book called Shallows, and it kind of explains of the whole new generation of kids that are growing up with attention deficit disorders and not being able to focus and so on. And that's actually the name of the game today for many young people. And it also kind of actually proves in a way that you can almost do an equally good research by kind of skimming and getting pieces of information here and there, rather than kind of sitting and getting the article that you have to read and going through it properly in quotes and so on. So I guess the biggest thing is really what you're comfortable with and what is your level of comfort with different kinds of technologies. Of course, I mean, I would say that still this is just a little minor drop in the sea of kind of higher education. So it's not making a huge impact. It's really just a channel that if you are feeling comfortable, you can actually use to communicate. So,
yeah. And it's my hope for the tool that it would become worth your time, that enough people are using the UBC Wiki that you'd say, oh, I really want to make sure my research, on this topic, I want people to know that I'm researching it, and that is a value added to you to be in that space. So I just hope that's sort of my goal for the wiki. So thanks. Yeah?
If you're on the wiki page, are you in a higher place in the Google search engines than if you're not on the wiki pages?
I think the wiki definitely is searched very well by Google. So like once we create a new page on the wiki, it tends to show up in Google very well. And then if you're linked from that page, definitely, it's another source that Google's saying this is a reputable source. It's a lot of people are adding it. It's a lot of dynamic content, so it definitely doesn't hurt. Yeah, for sure. So the number one question I get asked a lot on the wiki is, before we get to the number one question, so why would you use the UBC Wiki? And these are sort of the three main points. It's a collaboration tool. So it's a tool that you can bring a lot of people into to use to build collaboration tools. So looking back again at course content, if you have a homework assignment or a personal project or like you're building a syllabus and you have 5 people working in one space, it's a nice place to have that information. It's a nice space to have different people be able to change different things. So for example, I was in a course just this morning and we had to sign up for presentation slots. So it was very easy for her to just say, set up the day and time you want on this wiki page, and all the students could just log in and do it themselves. So it's a nice sort of collaboration space for that purpose. Shared ownership and maintenance, this is sort of like that documentation idea or the UBC Twitter account. Like it's too hard often for one person to go out and find this information or to maintain a faculty guide or a technology guide that's constantly changing. But if you have it in a centralized space, everyone can come in who can touch upon that information and add their own. And then multiple site usage, and we showed that a little bit with the e-learning example this morning. So you can have the information in the wiki and it can go out to the e-learning site, but let's say you want to have information about clickers on your own course blog. You can just grab that information from the UBC Wiki and have it on your course blog. And we have definite documentation on and training sessions on how to do that as well, and also drop-in clinics. So this is the number one question I think I get asked a lot is, how do wikis protect a author's work? And Matthew Barton, who was one of the first people to sort of write up the idea of wikis, basically said that this was the answer. They don't. And he sort of went on to say, a good preface on every wiki page would be, abandon all authority ye who enter here. Wikis are protected not by code, not by law, but rather by the participation of a wiki community. If you're not proud of your entry, if you feel compelled to see what's up, you will feel compelled to see what's up if you receive a notification that that entry has been changed, and roll it back, or you'll hit save and keep it there if it's actually improving your page. So the UBC Wiki has a couple different things to alleviate the danger of people coming in and editing your content. Number one, it's CEWL enabled. So again, it's not an anonymous wiki. It's not Wikipedia that someone can just sort of drive by and make a comment. It's always tied to your CEWL. Again, the ability to undo any changes. So the wiki saves every version of every page that's ever been changed. So you can say, if you have a course blog and someone wrote a comment on it that you don't think is appropriate or isn't good, you can just go in and roll back to the previous version that it was. You can also have a setting that every time a page you've created gets changed, it will email you, so you will always know what's going on that page. And those are sort of the main ways of keeping it. In the sort of year we've been out of beta, as we say on the wiki, we haven't really seen any sort of real vandalism on the wiki. No one's maliciously doing anything at all.
So just remind me, anyone on the web can see it, but only people with CEWL access can make changes.
Exactly,
and
yeah.
that's the standard policy for all of the wiki pages.
Well, almost. Of course, there is always an exception to the rule, and with a couple of faculties at UBC, we have some sort of relationship where they do get their own namespace, where they can be the only authors within that namespace. So, for example, if you are representing a faculty at UBC, you may ask for a protected space where only certain CEWL accounts coming from your faculty can manage. Yeah, yeah. In our case, really kind of, it sort of evolved from, one thing led to another, but basically the idea is it's kind of almost limited to web management. So library has one, Faculty of Arts has one, and we have one for e-learning. So basically, we are using it really for web management. Even though there are ways you don't really need it, still people felt more comfortable with the fact that only a handful of CEWLs can edit their content.
And I'm just sort of going to skip through this slide because we sort of covered why you use the wiki. This is when I'd say when you want to use the wiki, when you're collaborating, when you have many people who want to contribute, when content needs to be updated frequently, when you want to push that information out to other sites. And that's a big feature of the wiki is information published on the UBC Wiki does not have to stay on the UBC Wiki. I'm going to show just a couple basic things on here. So let me go to this Twitter page, back to the page. So if I wanted to have this content live on a website or in your Vista course page, so if you're creating course information and then you want to put it into Vista, you can just grab this tool down here called embed page that gives you the JavaScript code. You just copy and paste that right into your Vista page, your website, anything. Another sort of nice feature is the idea of ebooks. So if you want to print these out and
well, just before we go there, so is this clear, the JavaScript? So basically there's the same idea of how you would embed YouTube video. You would get the share button and you would publish it anywhere. And we do have a number of Vista courses that are using this functionality and getting content from UBC Wiki.
Just a quick question, could one also just copy that web address and put it in?
Yeah, you can link to it. I mean, the idea is that you don't lose your context, right? So if you're in a page with certain look and feel, you could kind of point the link and it'll open a new window and you may be at this completely different space. So the idea is that you can kind of, have your experience. Exactly. So the structure will stay the same and so on. So there are a number of benefits of doing that. And so basically we had that little functionality that you've seen where you can grab it and put it on any website that takes a little bit of code. But also there is another way. If you're using UBC CMS, we have even better way to push in the content. An e-learning website is done by the other way that we showed you earlier.
And is that Vista Blackboard Moodle compatible?
Not the other way is basically coming from, it's a WordPress plugin. So it's kind of, you would have to build a Moodle extension or Vista extension to do that. So it's not really dependent on MediaWiki, it's dependent on the end product.
But you're about to talk about
the ebook. So oftentimes you want to create handouts of the content you made, or you want to read it on a mobile device. So one of the nice features is you can create ebooks very easily on the UBC Wiki. There's a tool here called Create a Book. I'm just going to go ahead and it'll say Start Book Creator.
In case you don't see it, you have to be logged in to use it. Yeah. So you have to, yeah.
So it creates a little toolbar up here. I'm going to go ahead and add a lot of pages to it. So I'm going to go into the category for Campus Life, which has a lot of different pages, I think. These are all pages within the category of Campus Life that various people have added. I'm going to go ahead and say add this category to the book. So it's going to add all those pages into my book. So now I have 26 pages in my book. I'm going to go ahead and show it. I'm going to give it a title, UBC Campus Life. I'm just going to add a subtitle, Demo. The nice thing is you can create chapters. So let's say we'll do bars and pubs, bars and cafes.
Is it true that you could have gone all over?
Yeah. Yeah, you can add any page into this. So this is just for the demonstration purposes. I just grabbed a whole bunch of pages at once. You can do it one by one. You can sort of bulk add as well through categories.
You can select a bunch of different pages from a bunch of different topics that are related for your course.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then turn that into a collection that's curated specifically for your purpose.
Yep.
It's spectacular.
Yeah.
That is an awesome tool.
So I have the chapter here called Bars and Cafes. Maybe I want to move it down. I can move the pages around just by dragging and dropping them. So let's just say for the purposes that this is how I want it.
And before you go there, just to kind of show you one more thing. So basically, once you create your resource, your book, you may decide to share it within a space that is available for everyone on campus. So if you're, let's say, creating a book called Life on Campus, you may want to keep it open so that anyone who can come in and actually add more pages into your book. Or you may say, well, I really don't need it. It's my own book. I don't want anyone to touch it. And then if it's saved in your own personal space, then it's just yours and no one else can edit it. So you have that opportunity. But also you can just say that post request failed. Or you can just really save it as a PDF. And to be honest, I've never put that many pages. We never had this before.
I've never seen this area.
Yeah. We're actually doing an upgrade today, so it might be due to date, but because it's actually the first time.
But let me, sorry. I have, of course, when you're presenting, technology always fails. Let me see, actually, sorry. Let me just see if we have any books that have already been created.
No, you can try just like add a few pages just to see if it's a...
You're expressing concern about the number of pages. For me, I'd want to be able to put lots of pages together. That would be the point of it all.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. I mean, it should.
Yeah,
I think it's.
I've done books with hundreds of pages, and something's going on right now with the PDF renderer, and it might be the update. Yeah. Again, like I've never had a technical problem on this, except for now. So it looks like it's doing it across. This is a different book that's already rendered.
Converting from PDF to EPUB, is that what's happening?
So no, this will basically what this does is it takes all the different pages and formats them into a single PDF. So we don't have the EPUB format right now. That's something we just had a conversation yesterday with Scott that we'd like to develop for this. So because we're having more requests for the EPUB format, but this will do sort of a PDF, one single PDF for no matter how many pages you want. Exactly, and it does a nice, like, it'll automatically add a table of contents, so each page will have it, each page that you've added from the wiki will show up in the table of contents. And it will also show contributors. And I'm really sorry it's not working. Maybe Novak can show, because normally it's pretty handy. So let me just try one.
It's also referred to as open book or something like that.
It's similar to that. It's a slightly different extension.
A number of sites are using it, like Wiki Educator runs it, yeah.
Yeah, Wikipedia, I think, uses the same extension as well.
Are people using this to collect course materials?
Some are, yeah. Some are. We would like to see it used more. So that's why we try to always promote it at these meetings. That's definitely what we want people to use is, again, the idea of creating sort of like course repository of notes or of learning objects, and to be able to people can come in and say, okay, I'm working on math and I want this theorem explained along with these different things, and here's a handout I can hand out to my students in class very easily, or have them download it from the wiki.
I have past students and current students or people who wanting to get in the course, and I would really like to link them through. And some of them don't yet have their course registration or their CEWL, and some of them are alumni. This is all CEWL based. What can I do to keep my alumni in the picture?
It's my understanding, and Novak can speak to this a little better, that CEWL doesn't go away anymore. So if you're an alumni, you get to keep your CEWL, in which case you'd have access to all these resources. So,
Yeah, that's.
When you're publishing, presumably when you're taking a lot of stuff and making an ebook and using other people's things, it might be all very well if it's all done on like wikis, but copyright law is being jiggled around, right? And it's being pushed to be much more restrictive. So I think at all times, if you're ever going to say, I'm going to publish that, just make sure that what you will have in there, either all open source or open access or whatever, or you've done what you have to do by new laws coming in sort of be a larger development.
Yeah, no, and that's definitely an issue for any online sort of space, is that copyright is an issue, and if you're using a resource that you don't have, copyright permission to use, you shouldn't be necessarily distributing it through an online space. It's something licensure and copyright on the wiki is an area that we really need to hammer out from our policies. Basically, our sort of right now is if you don't own copyright, you shouldn't be putting it on the wiki, basically, or if it's not a Creative Commons license wiki. So it is an issue that we're well aware of, and we hope to have better policies built around it. So.
Marianne, do you want to add anything about copyright and the new things that are kind of?
Well, as she said, it's kind of unsettled at the moment, and so, but we do need to change the language on the wiki. We do encourage people to make sure that whatever information they use, and that they publish their records.
And so that's just a brief tour of the wiki. We're actually kind of running out of time, so I would say go ahead and create your accounts for sure, and go ahead and play. We kind of went through microblogging, which was that Pulse Press idea. Again, the uses that we're seeing is it's used for classroom back channels, and it's also used for student engagement, a way to get students who are in the class in front of a computer to engage with each other and with the instructors. And then
we did cover pretty much all the, I guess, important aspects of UBC CMS, and because we only have a few minutes left, you'll have to trust me on the fact that you can log in there and have this beautiful interface to build your websites. If you would like to try it out, please visit us at our clinic every Monday or Thursday, or you can request the website, and we will enable the website for you that you can run for your department.
So your clinic that you run every Mondays and Thursdays is different than the one you announced, the WordPress Basics?
Right. WordPress Basics is really a seminar that is very well structured, and it goes for 2 hours, and it covers like basic how to post, how to create a page, and so on, versus Clinic is really, you can drop in any time, stay as long as you want, yeah. And you typically get one-on-one support.
And we also handle wiki questions at the clinic as well. So.
Quick question about the CMS. So I need to create my own website because my department doesn't have someone who creates websites for us, and so I need to do it myself. Is it better for me to go with just going to a workshop to learn how to do
WordPress? I would say that would be a great start.
Or do I get a CMS website, my own? It's like my departmental website, but it's mine. It's not the department.
Oh, okay.
It's like Christina Hendricks at Philosophy.
Right, right. Well, the CMS is really for departmental websites, labs, and so on. It's not for individual kind of presences, but blogs.ubc.ca would be more of a place for that. And you can also kind of have your presence within a larger departmental website. That would be another way to do it.
Yeah, and blogs, again, it's a bit of a misnomer. You can have a full website under blog that's just as functional as that. So.
Quick account creation question. I created or logged into blogs and created a username. And then when I went to look at wiki.ubc.ca, it just said log in with CEWL, and it didn't ask me to create a username. Is the login process different, or are they integrated?
They are different processes, but you should have been asked to create
perhaps you created a wiki some time ago and you just logged in. Yeah. So because first time you logged in, you probably had to choose the name. I mean, you had to choose the name. So you were already logged in. Like you can actually look at the history. Yeah, but you were previously logged in. Yeah. And we do, like if you logged into one space, it doesn't log you into the other place, which is again kind of CEWL sort of limitation.
So kind of went over. So the big feature of the CW or this the CMS is the idea that it's integrated into UBC's common look and feel. So just click on the browser.
Are you not logged in here, or?
I'm not, no.
So I can show you just at least a minute or so how the theme looks like and what to expect if you are to get this. So basically the idea is that you have your WordPress interface for the most part. The key pieces of what is really different is under appearance section, where you have this link called theme options. And if you look at the theme options, I'll just give you like a 1 minute overview of what we have here. First of all, you can change your common look and feel. You can choose one of the 4 options that are being presented by public affairs, or you can choose your own option. This is also kind of compatible with common look and feel definition, where you can have either your own color on gray or on white. So like little things that you can touch, but again, whatever you do here should be compatible with common look and feel, and you don't have to worry about it because we don't give you the options that won't make it compatible. You do have actually ways to kind of make them mad, which is instead of, let's say, University of British Columbia, you put Simon Fraser or something else, so, and you can do that too. So there are different flavors for Vancouver campus and Okanagan campus. So if you choose Vancouver, it will give it background color that is Vancouver-based and kind of mocha color for Okanagan. You may decide to have a common look and feel mega menu. There's this big thing that opens and closes when you are common look and feel website, and so on. So you can also have this place of mind menu that can feed RSS feeds of your choice that are relevant to what your department does. Kind of neat little detail that, again, you can specify. Google search is automatically integrated. Google Analytics, then you can put your footer information, and again, it's all common look and feel compliant. Then you choose your layout. You can say 1 column, 2 column, 3 columns. All of this, if you know CSS, you can override this. This is really in case you are not familiar with CSS. Then you can say, well, I'll have my main column on the left and the sidebar on the right. Sidebar, basically in the WordPress vocabulary, is known as widget area. So if you have chosen the left column here and your right-hand sidebar here, when you go to widget area, you can drag and drop all the things that you want to show on the right, like navigation, contact us, and so on. You can be page specific. It doesn't apply for the whole site. Let's see, what else do we have here? So not much more. Then you can choose your fonts and colors. I can say, you know, I want whatever, different kinds of fonts here, and it shows you real-life preview. And this is actually a new update. We had it done slightly different. Then you can choose your body text fonts. And this applies to all the relevant tags. So it will change your H1, H3, H5, and H2, H4, and H6, depending how you want to use your tags. These are, again, kind of standard HTML things. We tried really to, whatever you're doing here, you should be able to have a little info box, and then you can kind of read what that section is about and what is the effect. So here we have kind of standard common look and feel and one with borders. And then navigation can be drop down on the white background, kind of singular column, or you may decide to go with kind of sort of old school CEWL, common look and feel, which is full width. And if I choose that one, it renders like this. Then you can say whether you want tertiary level navigation or just secondary. So like all these little things. And there are lots of kind of little details that you can say, like I am at home / about us. You can decide to have it or not have it. If you want to have it, you can really kind of design what kind of language you want to use. And then we have kind of some options, whether you want to say last update by John at what time, or whatever kind of little properties of the page. Front page actually is very cool. And here you can build, different experiences. It looks very simple here, but with this number of combinations, you can pretty much deliver any sort of experience on the homepage, from kind of very static, plain business card website, to very kind of dynamic, where you can have a number of widgets and all sorts of things happening, like slideshows and so on. We started with the regular kind of UBC slideshow, which is still default, but then in the last couple of months we've built We have now 5 different flavors of slideshows. Within slideshow, you can control, how many numbers of slides, what kind of category will be featured, how fast, how slow, what kind of transitions, and all these little things. And it's all very user-friendly. If you're not sure, you can read what does it mean and so on. Again, this theme is completely developed at UBC, and it's done for the purpose, of implementing and maintaining common look and feel. And then you can do like more kind of, now we're getting more technical, but basically you can build your own JavaScript, libraries and use them on the site, custom CSS and a couple of other things. For search engine optimization, you can add tags that are site-specific, but we also, once we build this, we also enable this on page-specific visibility, so you can go there and change that. Another thing that we are kind of working on right now is the mobile version. So if you have the site, and let's say your typical website looks like, what do we have open, Will, here? Giving was there? Yeah, so for example, let's say this website. These links will become almost like your iPhone app. So what you can see is a bit of content on the home page, and then you can have your navigation. For mobile, depending on how big your website is, you should be able to, first of all, change the amount of information that you want to display per page. So let's say I have this, 55 pages website that I find quite heavy for mobile. I could, first of all, create alternative navigation that will be for mobile, literally in minutes. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the way how WordPress does navigation, but here's the idea. I can simply drag and drop any page and add new pages and do everything within this section here. So this navigation is called now Top Nav. I may create another one by clicking on the plus sign that you may use for your mobile devices. So you may say, well, you know what, for my mobile users, I really want to have a few pages, and I really want them to be able to quickly find important phone numbers, information about courses, and so on. So basically, 3 important aspects of the website you can customize very quickly. So you'll be able to change navigation, you may be able to change the page content, and you may be able to change the widgets on the right-hand side. So I guess this gives you a bit of an idea of what we are doing and how we are doing things and what we are focusing on. And I think we are running out of time. So if you have any questions, please fire up, because we are actually out of time.
I'm just going to go quickly through our conclusions, but pick the right tool that works for you. There's a lot of different tools out there. Go ahead and pick them. This will just take a second.
Exporting from another WordPress to this WordPress, how would that be?
You export, click a button, export on your other WordPress, and click a button, import on this one. And we can help you with that. Come to the clinic. There is a button, yeah, under settings in your WordPress account, there is a setting export, and make sure that you export attachments, and then you go here and import, and everything will come in.
The next idea is plan ahead, so don't wait if you're trying to create a course blog the week before your course begins. It's nice to know to do this well early. The next one is play, so use these systems. You can't do anything wrong with them. It's impossible to break any of them. Go in, figure out how they work, experiment, have fun with them. And then be bold, do interesting things, try to figure out different ways to combine the systems to embed different things. Really the way these tools are being used are up to you guys. We just sort of provide the tools, go out and have fun using them. So, and that's sort of our presentation. Our emails are down here, so they're kind of hard to see, but it's novak.rogic at ubc.ca and will.engle at ubc.ca. They're on the syllabus or on the program guide as well, I believe.